Yeah, hello, Jessica. We can't hear you again. I think you're muted. You were trying to speak. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Um, can you hear me now?
Yes,
All
we
right,
can,
cool.
Jessica.
So I have about 5 years of experience working in product management across areas like fintech, e-commerce, retail, AI, and more. I currently work as a product manager in Uniphonic, a platform that handles automations, AI initiatives, basically around customer engagement. So that, in a nutshell, that is who I am, and I will be, would I say, your pilot for today. I see what's happening. And we will be talking about understanding, well, maybe this is understanding user needs, but I prefer to call it understanding customer needs. And we will get to understand why eventually as we go along for today. And you can also call it, of course, user research. Most people actually call it user research, which is also fine. But from a product manager standpoint, it's not just user research, right? It is more around understanding what your customer needs, meeting exactly what will bring your customers back to your platform every single day they need to, right? So it's not just user research, it's understanding your customers. So today's discussion is going to be around customer-centric product management, because we're not just going to be looking at user research methods or how to conduct user research. We're going to be looking at it from a product management standpoint. And the reason why it's important is because, for us, product management is king, if I may say so, right? In the course of this conversation, if you have any questions, I think you can just raise your hand and I'll try to make sure that I see. If I don't see, you can also drop your questions. But I think that would take some time for me to respond to. So whichever one is better for you, just get across. So we'll be talking about all of this today. I would try as much as possible to keep the time because we do have a lot to cover in the time slated. And we also have to do a bit of case studying. We'll take a case study and try and break it down ourselves with everything we've learned throughout the session. And then I will probably, if there's time, hopefully I will break us into the teams if we can. If we can't, that's also fine. That's why we have the case study. So let's get started. Okay, so customer-centric product management. When you hear that, what comes to mind? I mean, many people feel like product management is everybody, you do everything. You do business management, you do customer needs, you do UX, UI. Some people do development, coding, and all of that. But when you think about it as a product manager, what does customer-centric product development mean to you? What does it mean to us as product managers? Now, a quote that I love so much, and which you can see currently on this slide, it says that the biggest risk is building something nobody wants. And if you look at the world today, there are quite a lot of products that nobody wants. And with the boom of AI, we are seeing quite a lot of useful and unuseful use cases where this particular quote falls into play, right? Building things that nobody wants. It is the beginning and the end of many products. When I mean beginning, I mean the products is just starting and it's already going, it's already folding up, right? Um, for most businesses, you have an idea, you pick it up and you start working on it. You don't even check to find out, is it something that somebody can pay for? If they are willing to pay for it, how much is what they're gonna pay would it be able to sustain the product? There's a difference between building something for hobby and building it for financial growth or business growth or whatever, right? They are good ideas, which people are willing to pay for, but not so much. And at the end of the day, you can't keep the product up, right? You don't want to fall into such situations. I call those kind of products charity products. So unless you prefer to just handle it because people need it, that's also fine. But if you're hoping to make money from it, I would say think about it again, right? From that standpoint. Now, for every business to grow, just going from the second part of this, if you look at this pyramid or this triangle, whichever you want to call it, many people start from tailored products. And then they go to customer satisfaction. And then they have problems understanding why they built such a beautiful product. I mean, in all ramifications, it has beautiful colors, it has beautiful UX, usability is crazy, and all of that. But then customers either keep complaining that, oh, there's something wrong here. That's probably because maybe the foundation of the product itself has an issue. Or, people you don't even get feedback on people because people are not actually using your product, right? And then they expect that, okay, fine, nobody's giving you satisfaction, customers are not getting satisfaction from your product, but there should be growth because you have some people actually using the product. It doesn't work that way. And that's why most times when you have situations where you have a product that has been built, customer feedback is very bad or is non-existent, you don't necessarily see growth in such things. And those are the kind of companies that you see, maybe they boom for first few months and then they start telling their staff or the general public that they're closing down for business, right? It's because everybody always neglects the bottom part, which is customer needs. And I know that, and to be frank, I kind of understand why people neglect this because it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time. Sometimes you want to push things into the market as quickly as possible. Most businesses want to. But you see, as quickly as you push it in is sometimes as quickly as you fall out. Not everybody is Google. Right? Google can rush into the market with something haphazard and everybody will shout about it for, let's say, the first few months, and they can come back in a couple of months and tell you, oh, this is the product we brought out in, I don't know, 5 months ago. You all hated it. This is what we have now. And everybody's like, oh my God, this is so nice. Yeah, which is good. But then again, like I said, not everybody's Google because Google has the finance to be able to give that kind of leverage, right? Now, even though it takes time to do all this research, even though it takes time, and it takes manpower to actually conduct customer needs, you really need to be customer centric for anything you're building. I had a mentor who said that whatever product that doesn't meet a need that is being built is bound to fail, right? And the only way you can meet a need is by being customer centric. And being customer centric starts from listening to your supposed customers. And I do know that sometimes we don't even know who these customers are, right? Because sometimes it's just a new idea they are playing around with. But you have an idea, you most times have an idea of who could possibly, be the customers that you're targeting. Sometimes when you actually start doing the customer needs research or user research, you tend to understand that, okay, the customer you thought would be the user or the person who will pay for this doesn't end up being that. user, right? Or doesn't end up being that customer. And you can only find that out when you actually do your customer needs research, right? That's the only way to be able to do that without hurting your, let's say, your finances, hurting the people that you finally do tend to hire and things like that, right? And even though you're going to talk to customers, you also need to be aware that not all customers that you're going to talk to or not all data that you're going to look into is going to be good for you, right? Not everybody actually knows the right thing, which is why the statement that says customers don't always know what they want, but they can always tell you where it hurts, right? Customer can tell you when you're doing like your customer needs and maybe you're trying to figure out, oh, why do you always take food to the office, right? And they're going to tell you, I take food to the office because I don't know, I don't have time to leave. I don't have time to leave work to go out for lunch. Okay, why don't you have time to go out for lunch, right? But if you don't ask those probing questions, you just feel like, oh, okay, this person just doesn't just have time. But then it could be that the person has an allergy that most times when he buys food outside, right? He has maybe like running stomach or diarrhea and stuff like that. We don't know, right? So sometimes some customers may lead you down the wrong path, but you also have to be very cautious, very detailed about what exactly you want to hear. Probe more, right? And when you are probing, you tend to hear, like this statement says, where it hurts for the customer. And most times where it hurts for the customer is where you want to focus on. It's like your money maker at most points. I'm sorry if I'm being very money focused, but I am a product manager, and when you work for a business, most times you're very business oriented. You can also be technical oriented, but you're all about the numbers and how much you're bringing into an organization most times. And even if you're a CEO or an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. So listening to your customers to understand not just what they want, right, but their hurt points. That in a nutshell is you being customer centric. And once again, not everybody's hurt is good to implement, but that's another problem for another day to discuss. But like, you need to be able to listen to your customers, talk to your customers. That's the very first things. Product managers don't like to talk to customers. I don't know why. But at the same time, I understand why. Sometimes customers don't want to tell you anything. They want to complain, but you have to be able to probe through the complaint to hear exactly what it is. If you're building a product from scratch, it's even better because you don't get to hear a lot of complaints about the product. You get to hear maybe complaints about everyday life around the product you're trying to build, right? But then if you're a product manager managing a product, you probably will hear more about the problems. But then again, the people who tell you the problems are most times the ones that also like give you ideas on how to make your products better. So try as much as possible to interact with customers. That's the main point of this particular conversation. Okay, so now let's get into, like I said, the main conversations for today, which is customer need. Now, customers don't buy products, right? They may spend money to buy, but they're not actually buying the products. If let me think, what platform can I use? Okay, let's use Instagram, for example. Not everybody, in fact, nobody downloads Instagram because Instagram is pretty. No. Or because it's fast. No. Because it's not, okay, it's large. Everybody downloads it because they want to get connected. They want to feel connected. They want to be able to share their experiences with their friends, with their family. And that's what they're actually buying, or that's what they're actually downloading, right? Not the product itself, but the outcome of the product. To product managers, you may feel like, oh, your product is being used, or customers are paying for your product. But the truth is, their customers are outcome focused. In fact, they are so results driven that the moment your product doesn't meet the result they are hoping, they'll dump you as quickly as they got on. And we all know this. Nobody gets into a platform because the platform was beautifully built. No, it's all about the result. It's all about the outcome that they expect to get from a particular product in itself. So now the very first thing when it comes to customer need is you need to understand these customer needs. And how do we do this? We do this by understanding the functional need of a customer, understanding the emotional needs of the customer, and understanding the latent need of the customer. Now, most people and most times, we tend to see a lot of people focus more about the functional. And what do I mean by more about the functional? Oh, what does this person want to do with this, right? I want to schedule a doctor's appointment. That's the functional thing that the customer needs. This customer wants to be able to cross the road. That is the functional need that the customer needs, right? In the functional part of customer needs, here you are more focused in what do they want to do. Not how they do it, but what do they want to do? And most times we focus on that a lot. I want to send a picture. The customer wants to send a picture from their phone to another person's phone, or the customer wants to purchase stock options somewhere. That's what they want to do. And most times this is what we focus on. It's not a bad thing, truthfully, because it helps you understand exactly what your customer is trying to achieve, and then you try to make it as quick as possible for the customer to achieve this. And it's not a bad idea, truthfully speaking. But to give yourself more leverage, to build, will I say, loyalty with your customer, right? You should also look at the emotional need of your customer. Fine, this customer wants to send or post his picture. Functionality need here is the customer wants to post their vacation pictures for everyone to see, right? That's a functional need. Great. I can build my functionality to allow you upload, post, and you're good. But then when I think about the emotional part of things, why does this customer want to post pictures of their vacation? Why? Why exactly is posting their pictures important to them? And that's where the emotional part comes into play, right? At this point, you are thinking of, okay, so the person wants to post a picture, fine, they post, okay, is that all they are going to get? Is that satisfaction at its peak for them, just posting it? No, right? They are posting it for family and friends to see it, to say, oh my God, you went on this vacation. It could be a conversation starter with a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, getting to your DM and you start talking about, oh, how the vacation was great, how this is where you stayed, the experience in that place, how even of course for some people they don't even have conversations, you just get likes, right? There are times you go on vacation and you come back and you post your pictures, and you once you post it, you see some people go away from social media for like 30 minutes and then they come back to see how many likes they've gotten, how many comments they've gotten, to feel good about themselves, right? Now, if you now think about the emotional part of it and you add that into your products which you have made, now you are saying, I've given the customer the ability to upload their picture. Great. And I'm giving them also the ability to have an interaction with the people who actually see these pictures. They can have interaction, which brings out some kind of, would I say, emotional happiness emotional feelings to the whole process. So the person is happy that he's getting some kind of gratifications from his pictures, right? In a nutshell, you have just taken the product or the functionality from being just a simple feature that you have just giving your customers to be able to upload to something that they actually have some emotional feeling or gratification about. When you do things that way, most times the person will come back to post on that platform again. And it is why a lot of us go to Instagram. It's why a lot of us go to TikTok. It's not just because you want to post. No, it's because of the feedback you get from posting your pictures. Right? So whoever it is that builds these functionalities saw that there's an emotional, there's some happiness that your customer feels. And with that, they have built some kind of loyalty. Right? So understanding how to find the balance between functionality and putting in a bit of emotional needs into it improves the will I say, what word do I use here? Improves your understanding of the customer, right? And also builds the loyalty the customer has for your product. Now let's leave social media, because I think that's like a very easy example. I would use another example. I say, I want to send money to my mom, right? Or to my grandma. Not very tech savvy, so I use my grandma. I want to send money to my grandma, but I want her to be able to, I want to send the money as quickly as possible because she needs it ASAP, right? Because she needs it ASAP, I want to be able to define who exactly I'm sending my money to. So functionality-wise, what I need here is send money to my family member, right? Now, when I send money, what does that mean for me emotionally? What I feel when I'm sending that money? What feedback or what emotional connection do I have to that? One is that I'm happy that I'm providing for my family. So which means that if it's possible for me to get some kind of feedback when the money is sent to tell me that, oh, this money has landed in the destination, right? Which is why you see things like, oh, money, your transaction is pending. And then when it has gone through, you see transaction completed, right? Things like that makes you happy that, okay, the money has gone. You have somehow not just given your customer the ability to send funds, but they are also able to get feedback and feel good that, okay, the money that I have sent has actually gotten to the destination it should get to, right? And that again is building a bridge between functionality and emotional need. Great. Now let's talk about latent. This is the part that I feel it's a bit difficult to actually find. You can only get this by will I say observing. It's a bit difficult to get this without talking to your customers, or without, maybe if you have things like session recorders, that could help. Without watching user sessions, it's a bit difficult to find this one, because these are not things that the customer will actually tell you. There are hidden needs that the customer has that they don't even know they have it. That's why it's very difficult to highlight it sometimes. The only way you can get it sometimes is by understanding the customer behavior. Like, oh, when I log into this platform, the first place that the customer goes to is this particular place. Why do they go to this particular place, right? Why don't they go here that has a shorter route? Things like that. And if you ask the customer most time, you just like, I just go there for going sake. It's not because of any other thing. It's just when I open it, this place is what comes. This is what catches my fancy, right? But these things, even though they are unspoken, they are also like things that if you can improve on, or if you take note of, can give you can make your customers love your platform. So there's a difference between loyalty, a customer having loyalty to a platform and loving it, right? I can have loyalty to a platform because I feel like, oh, yeah, they do what I need. That's it. Like what I need, they do it and they do it well, right? I could love a platform, all right? And loving a platform is they do it well and they have a way of sprinkling some extra, for lack of a better word, jazz to the whole experience, right? So even though they do all of that, I'm ever happy to log into this place and use it. I am, of course, always happy to talk about it, evangelize about it. In fact, before anybody asks me a question about, oh, using this, I'm only telling you, I use it, my grandfather uses it, great one uses it, right? That's more about it. And I know it's, like I said, it's a very difficult aspect of understanding customer needs. But then we're going to go back to our Instagram use case. When Instagram first came out, all we did was see your friends' pictures, right? When you are feeling, let me just see. I'm just going to Instagram and go and check what are people doing. After a while, Instagram decided to bring up Reels, right? And now you don't have to only look at your friends anymore. Hi. Hi, Sharon. Can you help me mute? Thank you. All right. And then we had Reels, right? And when Reels came out, we didn't have to just look at your customers. You don't have to look at only your friends' pictures. You can see other pictures. You can see other people's experiences, right? So Instagram now became not just a place to keep up with your friends, but also a place of entertainment. There are times where I end up watching a full movie on TikTok. Why? I was bored. I went in and I just started scrolling. And then I saw a video that, oh, okay, a clip of a video that I was like, okay, this is nice. I go in and then I go from part 1 all the way to part 30. And technically speaking, I've just watched the full movie on TikTok, right? Now, why? How exactly did the product managers who worked on these products decide that endless scrolling was something that needed? Detail, thanks. How did they decide that endless scrolling was something that we needed? Because many people didn't come and say, oh, I'm not able to, I don't like the fact that there's a break in transmission when I'm going through, people's reels. Where did endless scrolling come into play? Why did it come into play? I'm very sure that that they sat down with the customer and just said, or asked questions and like, oh, is this that? No, those were more of, okay, this person went through, and we saw that he kept trying to push the fridge to see the things. They said, this would be a way for us to improve this. Right? So things are more of things that you observe. Yes. Latterly, to a large extent, I don't bring income to you. It's just making things nicer, right? But sometimes they can think about very good ingenious or ingenious innovation, right? Your team. I just talk about endless scrolling. Endless scrolling is not something that anybody was doing until, like, I think, when I say 4 years back, or even further. Before then, it's nothing like endless scrolling, right? You scroll to the end of what you're watching, you have to refresh your page or refresh the app or something, or pull down so that you get more. But now you please sit down. And that came from trying to understand the unspoken things that customers want, customers need. Now, if you think of all these things that we just said, it's not one day's job. right? You just don't sit down one day and say, functional need, I have understood it. And most times, functional need is what leads us into user stories. You just understand it, bam, just run into user stories almost immediately. Excuse me. And just run into user stories almost immediately. This takes time. This takes effort. Sometimes you take time in understanding the functional need, and then you have to sit down and try and understand the emotional needs, especially when you, and this is where I would advise that when you are doing things like, we'll talk about methods eventually, but when you are doing things like interviewing customers, you just don't go with barrel and paper. Go with some kind of recording, something that can record your sessions, because sometimes in having conversations with customers and having them answer you back and forth, you will get insights into their emotional need. They're not likely going to tell you, oh, this is my emotional need, right? Just the same way latent need, you need to, see. Basically, you need to see, you need to interact most times, because they are unspoken. Nobody's going to tell you. Nobody's going to come and complain on customer feedback and say, this is it. No, it's just things that you have to understand. You have to understand these two. And this is why I say many people focus on functional. And I understand why. Because these two are not as easy as I have explained it to actually put into use. Sometimes you have to have spoken to customers so many times. I know how many customers I speak to just of one particular. I will speak to the customer, I will speak to the salesperson that brought the customer, I will speak to the account manager. I speak to like 5 different people just to try and understand, okay, the functional and the emotional need of this feature, right? For latent, I use more, for latent needs, I use more of screen recordings session recordings to try and understand what my users actually are doing on the platform, to see how I can improve it more for them. So yeah, but I would say if you can do these two, which is functional and emotional, you are on the way to an amazing start, right? So like I said earlier, just to wrap this up before I move on to the next, is if you're able to put in functional and emotional needs together, you are likely to have customers who are loyal to your platform, right? Now, if you are able to add a bit of latent to it, you will make your experience beautiful. That's just the truth. Like, they will love your platform. They will want to talk about it, their friends, even without provocation. That's just the truth. And if you're able to use all of this together, I mean, holistically, like you'll enjoy what you're building. You will enjoy interacting with your customers. Even when a customer is complaining about something, you wouldn't feel bad that the customer is shouting. Because you're more into, okay, this customer is frustrated. Right? A bit, you get a bit of the emotional need there. The person is frustrated that he can't do something. So you get to understand. Your brain already talking about, oh, this customer was rude to me. Truthfully speaking, that would be the list of your problems. It's not even come to your head. Okay. Now, another way, or like, I wouldn't say way, because it's just another aspect, another part of understanding your customer needs, is understanding the job to be done. Here, in understanding the job, for before I even go to job to be done, again, these two that I'm going to discuss now are just parts that you should also consider. I am not saying that you should throw all this functional and emotional and just pick job to be done. No, or just pick outcome-driven innovation. No, that's not what I'm saying, right? I am saying you need to do all together to have a holistic understanding of your customer need. It's a lot of work, I know. But you have to do all of them to actually get the proper insights. Just wanted to put that out there. So nobody quotes me and say, oh, I can just use this. No, you can't just use this. You have to try and use all. Now, For job to be done here, you are trying to define the customer's need in context. And what I mean by in context, I mean, what is the person trying to do? Right? Which is why you have, I put this formula here that kind of explains how you write out job to be done statements, right? You're saying the situation the customer is in. You're saying the motivation, like why do they want to do what they want to do, and then you're also saying the desired outcome, like where they are hoping this comes into play. And if you have done this, like we discussed, having this outline here will be very easy, right? It will be very easy because you already understand the functional need, you already understand the emotional need. So doing the job to be done is just you wrapping it up, right? And I'll give you an example. I could say a job to be done when it comes to, let's see, we'll see you our social media platform. When it comes to things like Instagram, right? Is when when I'm, the situation here would be like, I finished work for the day. So when I'm done with my work for the day, I want to be entertained with something about my family and friends, right? So that I feel connected to them with or without calling. In that sense, my emotional needs are just connected. I'm doing it because it's kind of entertainment. And I'm also doing it because I'm connected to my family, right? So when you think it like that, you have to have already done or understood the let's say the customer need or the foundation of the customer needs, which are functional, emotional, and lasting needs, right? For you to actually know what the job that the customer needs to do and why they want to do it. Once again, job to be done is not your development team job to be done here. The job to be done here is from the customer's point of view. Everything here is about the customer, right? So you are forcing yourself to focus on the content of what they want to do and to focus on the outcome, not the feature. Again, you are not focused on the feature you are trying to build. You are more focused on the content of what the context, of what the customer is trying to do and the outcome they want to get. Because if you're only focused on, oh, this is the problem, this is the solution is this feature, let's run with it, you may not be actually solving the problem. You're just building a feature. And you have to remove yourself from that, will I say, black hole of feature building, right? Be more immersed in the context of what the customer wants and what they're trying to achieve. And that's what job to be done helps you with. Once you have that outlined, your team, you and your team will be able to express or even have better understanding of what the customer needs to stakeholders, right? You'll be able to understand better what to build when it comes to solutions for this. And you'll also be able to know when and when not to use things like AI, because that's everybody's conversation nowadays. When when the customer has an issue, the next thing you hear is, oh, there has to be an AI thing that can fix this, right? So if you understand the job to be done, also you know when and when not to use things like AI. Please, I love AI. Let nobody think that I don't. I build it, so I love it a lot. But I also know that it cannot solve all problems. You also have to understand the context of your customer, what they need to be able to know whether this is an overkill or it's not an overkill. Okay? Now, when you're done with that, you are now going to have your outcome-driven aspect of things. Here, you are building on, because I already said you have to focus on this before you can now sit down and decide on the feature to be built, right? And which is where outcome-driven comes into place. Outcome-driven innovation comes into place. You are now building on your jobs to be done. You know the problem, you know what the person is trying to do. Now, you need to now work on the solution, work on the feature that you know will do this, how it will do it. What steps would the person take? Those kind of conversations. What should I prioritize when I want to do these features? If I make it this 2 steps, will it be less hectic of a work for my team? Will it get the customers their outcome faster? Or do I have to make it more elaborate? You know, things like that are what you discuss here. So you're building on top of, you know, on top of the jobs to be done. Okay. And well, of course, when you have things like that, you just don't jump into the building again. You probably want to have things like customer usability tests to understand if you're actually fitting or solving the problem that the customer has. So you just don't want to jump into it. So we have discussed, wow, I'm behind schedule. We have discussed a bit, and I want us to do a brief exercise. I have a QR code on the screen. Please, if you have your phones, try to scan it. What I expect from you is or what I'm hoping that we can do is pretty straightforward. Any product in your mind, whatever it is, when I'm not, I don't know if it's social media, I don't even care if it's Instagram you want to use. Any product you can think of, even if it's one you haven't built or you hope to build in the future, anyone you can think of. And I need you to break it down into functional need, emotional need, and market need. You can just give me like one example of each, and then give me like the JPT statement of it. It doesn't have to be correct. We'll just go through it and say it. You should be able, except you're using your phones. If you're using your phones, then I have to share the link. If you're not using your phone and you're using like your laptop, you just have your phone, open your camera and scan the code. Don't worry, even if you're watching it on the screen, it will scan. Okay, give me a second. And now my form is misbehaving. For some funny reason, the platform is not agreeing to open. I don't know if they're having like a downtime or something. Oh, wow. It's not agreeing to open on my end. I'm trying to get in so I can solve your problems. Okay. So if it's not working there, I wanted to make it anonymous as possible so that everybody can give me their answers. But you can also just drop your answers in the comment section. I'm not sure what is happening with Lido. It is not agreeing to open up on my end. So I'm not able to get in. Yeah. So maybe they have some kind of downtime. I don't know. So what we can do is in the comment section, you can just drop your answers and I wanted to make it as anonymous as possible, but too bad. It is what it is. You can just drop your possible answers in the comment section and then we can discuss some of them. I have like 5 minutes. If we can't do this, I'll just go through to the next. And maybe some other time we can, and some other time we can do it. Yes. Yeah, you can drop your questions in the comment section as well. I'll just give us 5 minutes to do that. And then we'll continue from where we are. So in the next, this is 2:52. So by 2:55, we'll just go up to the next part. So any example of your choice. It could be an app, it could be chips, like plantain chips, if you can think of it, anything, not just apps. Anything you can think of that can provide some kind of value for a customer is fine. Sure, no problem. So what I need you to do is think of an app or a product, any product of your choice. It could be an app, it could be a physical product, any of your choice. Just think of it and try to give me the customer needs for those products when it comes. Yes, it could be like child deck. Just give me like the customer needs when it comes to functional, emotional, latent needs, and then also give me like a job, the jobs to be done. One job to be done statement is fine. I just want to make sure that we understand what we're talking about for the last few minutes. Time is almost up there. Okay, let me see what we have so far, and we can just discuss it a bit before we go forward. Oh wow, that was very detailed. Okay, I mean, thank you so much. This is very, very detailed. Well done. Okay, I'll start from the top. Yeah, other food online, functional need. So if I was to think about this, it's not bad, actually quite good. The only thing is, I'm not a big fan of the fact that you added the online, because I feel the functional need for anybody who orders food online is they want to order food as quickly as possible. They couldn't care less if it's online or if they call or if they reach out to the business via WhatsApp, right? So once again, when you make it things like this, when you say order food online, you are restricting yourself. You are also like you're making it more about what you think the customer wants, not what they really want. Online is just a channel, right? It's just a channel that a customer can use. But the main thing is that they want to eat and they need food as quickly as possible. Because for example, I'm gonna use child deck exactly. A child deck again for an example. There are times where, because I use child deck a lot, where I want to order food from a particular restaurant, right? And I have placed the order on child deck. The order has been accepted. My food has been made. They've been making my food for like an hour, 30 minutes, and then eventually it's cancelled. And I'm in tears because I could care less whether it was online. And then I reach out to that same restaurant via WhatsApp, right? And I tell them, please, will you take my order? And they tell me yes. And I say, this is my location. How long will it take to get to me? And they tell me it will be in 30 minutes. And I'm like, cool. And 30 minutes, I get my food. This is real life story anyway. Not as if I'm throwing shades on child deck or anything. But like the truth is, I could care less whether I was reaching out to them via child deck or via an app or via online. My own was I needed food and I needed it now, right? So I could reach out to the customer even on WhatsApp. Sorry, to the restaurant even on WhatsApp, right? So try and think of functional needs, not just restricting yourself to a bubble. Try to think outside the box a bit. Not really outside the box, but try to think of it more on what the outcome, exactly, the outcome the customer wants, which is what I've been trying to say, right? So I will pick, that was that for functional need. I will pick an emotional need from somebody else. Okay, let's see. Ability to send certain products and get paid. Okay. Ability to get transactions done quickly and receive a notification. Okay. Aha. So once again, I look at this and I'm like, not bad. But once again, I feel like we are trying to, I know it's not easy. Truth be told, it's not easy to do this, right? So me giving these corrections is not me telling you that you're doing it wrongly. Please, just highlighting that. I'm just telling you that as much as you're trying to be, very product manager-ish, you are also like falling back to your old ways of being very, very feature-driven, trying to sound very I don't know whether is it professional or call it. I don't know why we do that though. You need to try and be raw when you're doing this kind of thinking, right? Now, this an entrepreneur is trying to sell their products and they want to be able to negotiate and then get their payment via the app, right? Now, the reason they want this is because they want to get their payment. It's not, if the transaction is fast, it's fast. But the main thing here is they are happy when they see their account shake, right? So it is that happiness. Yes, the notification comes from that happiness. Yeah, that is why you have to go in to have a notification to help them get that happiness, which is the emotional need there, right? They also want to be able to be frustrated when they don't get the notification of their transaction. Okay, so you also need to think of it from that point, not on the feature point. Don't think of it from a feature standpoint. Think of it from an emotional standpoint. Why does this person want the transaction to be done quickly, and why do they want to receive notifications? Why? Right? It's because when you get a notification, you are happy that your account, you have done something has dropped, right? Somebody has sent you money for the product you're going to give out. So emotional wise, that's what I think it is. Yeah, it's fine. Let me see. Is there anybody who has something for Latin? I know nothing is hard. I won't even expect anyone to have anything for it. If I see, okay, let's see. We want to control how strong and subtle the scent is. Oh, diffuser. Nice. Mm. Okay, okay. I actually like this. I actually like this latent need. Um, so you're saying, and your product is very outside my area, but I think it's actually very nice, Emily. So for your latent need, I think it's also quite good, actually quite good. Thinking about the fact that yes, they like they want to be able to eliminate order from their house, right? And the stress of a long day, they don't want to come home to homely smell. Like beautiful. And then the latent needs also on point. Like they might not be able to tell you this. They like the smell. Like for example, I like oud, but at the same time, I don't like oud. It's weird. I like it, but I don't like it at the same time because I feel like sometimes oud can just be very overwhelming. But I like it still. Right. So yeah. This is a very, very good example. Okay. I'm glad everyone is thinking along with me and following accordingly. We'll move on to user research itself. Now you have an understanding of your customer need and all of that, but how did you even get that understanding, right? Um, you know what you need to get, basically. You know that you need to get the functional needs. You know you need to get needs. You know you need to you also need to get like to be done. But how do you get this? Right? You have to do your research to get it done. You have to like, talk to your customers. You have to do research, right? And that's where user research comes into play. Yeah, and that's where user research comes into play. You have to when you're thinking about user research, you're now thinking about how am I going to how am I going to conduct my user research? What process am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Those kind of conversations are the conversations you now start having when it comes to the user research itself. And here is the very first thing you're going to discuss or you're going to think of is, okay, now that I want to do my user research, how am I going to get this data? What sources am I going to get it from? Am I going to do someone else? Right? Right? Or you are involved in interaction with your customers. The conversation you have issue and instead people and put the customer groups, all of that yourself. It is not outsourced. You do the usability test yourself. You do your yes. Yes, Emily. Do you have a question?
No, not a question. You're breaking, so we couldn't hear all you've been saying.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Am I better now?
Yes.
All right, great. Okay, I'll do like a recap. So I was saying when you're going into user research, you need to think of what source you are going to do your user research through. Are you going to do it primarily or are you going to do it secondarily? Primarily is basically you're handling everything yourself. You and your team, you handle everything. You do the surveys yourself, you do the usability tests yourself, you handle the customer groups, all of that, you do it yourself. Okay. The good thing about primary research is you get first-hand, fresh, off the fire, hot feedback, right? And sometimes you get updated feedback, like it's not something that somebody else told you, it's not hearsay. right? It's not based on another person's findings, it's your findings, right? That's one of the good things about primary. But it is expensive, truth to be told. It's an expensive way of handling user research, which is why many people don't go for it. For example, I have a project I've been trying to start off, and for me to do that, I need to be able to have people on ground in marketplaces, right? For me to actually conduct this user research. And you can imagine how much that would take out of me. So yeah, it's quite expensive to do primary. But then you also have secondary research as an option. For secondary research, you are using existing data, articles that already exist, reports.
According to her.
Reports, industry data, right? Trends, competitors analysis, social media, podcasts. They're not actually your research, but they are useful for whatever it is you're trying to do, right? And that's where secondary comes into play. And from what everything I just said, you can see that it's less expensive. Should be told, it's less expensive and sometimes actually quicker than primary, because primary will take you months sometimes to actually do it well and have like good feedback, right? So yes, Emily, don't tell me I was breaking again.
No, you weren't. For the secondary research, is
Okay.
it like 99% of the time the research or the data you collect from this, are they 100% correct? Or you still have to implement the primary research?
So the truth is, the internet is available to everybody, but not everything you see on the internet is true. So sometimes you need to have like an extra, you don't necessarily have to do primary just to back it off, even though I would support that you do, but you don't. Another thing you can do is, if you're looking at, let's say you're looking at Deloitte's report, right? After looking at Deloitte's report and you're like, okay, this is the report you got, data points that you got from Deloitte, you should also look at McKinsey, right? So when you look at different people talking about the same thing, you tend to have a middle ground where everybody meets. And most times that middle ground is the answer to whatever it is you are trying to figure out. Sometimes you may not find a middle ground, everybody's saying their own thing the way they want to say it. And that is where, in those situations, is where you probably need to now do like primary research on your own. Right? So that you have so that you have first-hand feedback on whatever it is that you're trying to get. But like I said, primary is expensive, which is why many people dodge it, and I understand totally. Even though it gives you like better data, gives you specific insight on your own audience, because let's be frank and sincere, for a place like Nigeria, some of those data, they are not the best. I remember when I was first coming into tech, when I just finished NYC, I wanted to do a project. I was going into data science at that point. I wanted to do a project on our weather system, or rather our weather. I wanted to build a model that could help with predicting the weather properly based on what we have, how we've had it, and all of that. And I was trying to get data with regards to Nigerian weather. My dear, it was almost impossible. It almost made me run mad. So yeah, for places like ours, sometimes you may not really get enough to actually do a secondary research, and you may have to do primary. It's the sad truth, but it is what it is. Okay. So that is that. If there are no more questions there, we'll move to the next. So now we have decided, okay, we're going to do primary, we're going to do secondary. Now, what method of what kind of data, what research data would be best for what we're trying to do? Will it be quantitative? Will it be qualitative? Or will it be both? Right? Now, what is quantitative? Quantitative is more about numbers, right? You're trying to analyze, trying to understand what the data is saying. Most times data doesn't lie, which is why we like it, right? It tends to tell you, the customers will tell you that, oh, I love this feature. It's the best. Yet, only 5 of them are using it out of the 20 people you are talking to. Even though all of them are telling you that, yes, they use it. But yeah, you actually check the numbers, it's not telling what they're saying. You have quantitative. You're focused on understanding the person's behavior. You're having a conversation. You want to know why they do what they do, or even how they do what they do, right? I never advise going with either, like doing an all kind of statement here, like saying, oh, for this project, I'm going to go with quantitative only, or I'm going to go with qualitative. I never advise that, because even though data doesn't lie, it can lead you into a black hole that will take you ages to dig yourself out of. Qualitative might not be every time on point, but then it helps you understand the customer's pain points. Helps you also see possible problems that you could fix in the future. I could lead even to another full product on its own, who knows, right? I always advise that you use both, right? You don't just focus on one. Plan to use both in whatever you're doing, right? So for qualitative, you are focused on, let's use what do we use? Let's say an e-commerce platform, right? For qualitative, you're trying to see a particular product that your customers like. Numbers will tell you, but then they can tell you that, oh, a lot of your people buy toiletry at the end of the month, toilet paper at the end of the month. Okay, that's good, but you don't know why, right? And then when you do that qualitative, you get to understand why. It could be that at the end of the month is when the person does his monthly shopping. So most of your customers do their monthly shopping at the end of the month. So they restock everything that they have in the house, not because they need toilet paper, but because they are just restocking for the new month. Yeah, the numbers told you that this is this, but you got to understand why by talking to your customers, right? If I was to give you examples of quantitative, things like A/B testing. A/B testing can give you quantitative feedback, right? Conducting things like surveys. Now, depending on how the survey was implemented, it can give you quantitative and it can also give you qualitative. What other example can I think of for quantitative? Oh yeah, when we do CSATs, that's also a kind of survey. So I can't even use that. It's also a survey. So yeah, depending on how you implement your survey, it can give you both, right? Qualitative, like I said, interviews, talk to your customers, you get that feedback. You can do usability studies. You also get like qualitative and quantitative when you do that. Yes, usability study. So these are the kind of data you can get. We know the kind of data you can get. We know the sources, right? Now we're going to discuss, we're going to look at a possible, let's say use case, right? So I have a platform. What do we use? We can still use Instagram. I have a platform. I'm trying to understand if people need the ability to have group calls on Instagram, right? Now, I need to know, do I do this myself? Do I do this user research myself? Or do I just check stats to see how many people use group calls? I could do that if it would save me time, because even though I work on Instagram, I have other things to do. So having conversations, and besides, I cannot probably put everybody in a group into one place and then have a conversation. It may be a bit tedious. How do I do this? I think about it and I say, okay, you know what, let's do secondary. Now, sometimes you find articles that tell you, oh, millennials like group calls. Gen Zs like group calls, things like that. You see those kind of articles a lot. And then I tell myself, well, this is good. Now let's see, how many people do I have on my platform that fall into millennials or that fall into Gen Z? Which is where quantitative comes into play. I think about it. I also check for it on my platform, even though so far I haven't done any primary research, just to highlight. I have only done secondary, and now I am trying to get the data that can match that secondary based on what I've seen outside. Now I check. I see that, okay, on my customer base, I have like, let's say I have like 30% millennials, 20% Gen Zs, and the rest scattered around. Fine. Now, I've seen this, I can check more to understand more, which is like, okay, how many of them actually are in groups within their Instagram accounts? I see that now that can help me define if this publicly known fact or publicly released data is correct on my platform. If it's not correct, then it means that what I saw online doesn't work for me and I also have to do primary. Now, I have all these millennials, I have all these Gen Zs that I could reach out to, and I reach out to them with my already existing interview questions because I cannot go empty-handed. Okay, we'll talk about that soon. I reach out to them and I have this conversation and I find out that, oh, actually, they do like group calls. Even though my data says that not a lot of them are in groups, but then they go somewhere else to have those group conversations. So it was a good thing that I did secondary. It was also a good thing that I did primary. And it was a good thing that I had quantitative and qualitative data. And it became holistic. Okay. We are going to skip this exercise. I feel like I have explained this exercise to you with what I just said. So we're going to just skip it and move forward. Also because time is not our best friend at the moment. So now conducting the user research. Now you have probably defined the source. You're going to use primary and secondary, or you're going to use only secondary, you're going to use only primary. You've also defined your data. It is the qualitative, quantitative, all of that. We have done. Now, you need to plan out how exactly you're going to take or conduct this user research. And the very first thing you need to do is to define your research goal. What do you want to achieve? Right? How many, most organizations, and we'll talk about this eventually again, but most places you have like a goal, like you're having a product, you're about to do a product. What is the goal? You want to have at least 10 new people every day. Okay, that's a fine goal, but out of that goal, what exactly do you want to get from this user research? Is it that you want to figure out how to make people come back, how to make people always, to be sticky, how to make a product sticky? Is that the point? Do you want to research to understand if the problem you think customers have are the problems they have? Or let's say for something like Instagram now, if you want to do like defining your goal, could it be that you're trying to define if people like to share their pictures, right? So you have to define your goal so that you know what you're doing. It's not like you're just going into your research and you come on and you say, okay, this is what I found. Okay, how does that relate to the goal that you had? Also, your goal helps you, sorry, excuse me. Your goals helps you when it comes to things like defining your questions, defining people you want to talk with, right? If your goal has to do with Gen Z users, then you've basically defined your product, your population for your research, right? So the very first thing is to define your goal. The next thing you need to do is to create a research plan. Who and who is supposed to be part of this research? Are you going to have a UX person? Are you going to have some engineers? Because truth be told, engineers are one of the most resourceful people you can have on your team. Product managers don't use engineers enough. I think we use them only for building. I don't know why. They have some of them have the most interesting ideas. Yeah, they're not really good at talking to people also, but you never know. Are you going to have an engineer on your team for this research? Are you going to do the research alone? All that is part of creating your plan. If you're going to do this research, how long is it going to run for? A year, 2 years, 1 month, 6 months? Also something you need to define. You also have to define things like, okay, we already discussed this. Are you going to do primary? Are you going to do secondary? What kind of data do you want to get? All of this falls under creating your research plan. Okay. Are you gonna have, how many people are you gonna say are you gonna use? That comes into defining your research population. How many people are you going to need? Are you going to talk to only 10 customers and say, okay, your research is done, you're good, this is the path to go down? If you are, what is the age group of people you're going to discuss with? I'm going to discuss with males and females. I'm going to discuss with married people, singles, children, teenagers. All of that is also defining your research population. Are you going to discuss people from Nigeria, from Lagos, from Abuja, from everywhere? All of that is also part. Think of defining your research like how you would think of. I don't know if you have science people here, but if you're a science person and you did your project, right? And I think art people also do this, because I have a younger sister who did something under social science and she had to also do this. So think of it like you're doing your project. You also need to define where you're getting the people that are going to answer your surveys from, where you're picking, if it's something like a Greek you did, where you're picking your when I say manure, if it's something that has to do with that. These are just examples, but I think you get the point, right? All of this falls under defining your population. And then, of course, you have to define your questions. This part can make or break you. See, you could have done everything from number 1 to 3. You have defined your goal, you have defined your plan, you have defined your population, and your questions are not good. You have just wasted effort, wasted time, and you have wasted money. Most importantly, you have wasted money. Okay, no. Most times you have wasted time, and the next is money. But I cannot overstress that your questions have to be good. Make them as open-ended as possible. Try not to deviate from your questions. I mean, when it comes to customers, sometimes they can deviate you. That's just the truth. You can ask question A, they are answering question A, and they bring up Z9, ZB, or something else in another place. I don't know. And you want to find, and your curiosity will pick up. Your curiosity will pick up, and you're like, oh, okay, let me ask you, but please don't deviate. Try to stay on point. I have been in customer interviews where they were interviewing me. I was the customer that was being interviewed, and I realized that I did this to the person, and I didn't mean to. Truthfully speaking, I didn't mean to. It just happened. The person asked me this, and I answered this, but then I started answering other things that he didn't ask me. I started giving him information on other things he didn't ask me. But the good thing is he wasn't alone on the call with me. And even though his partner wanted to like inquire more about what I was saying, he allowed it. But then he also brought me back to the initial reason why they were there. So try not to lose focus when it comes to the interviews. Go with your questions. Try not to leave your questions. Make them as open-ended as possible. If you have to do true or false questions, it shouldn't be so much in your questions, should be told. Because once again, you cannot forget that you are trying to get, where is it? You're trying to get this. If you have true and false, you won't get anything. You'll just be getting true. Oh, okay, yes, no. Yeah, and that doesn't tell you anything, should be told. So let's, as much as possible, have your questions open-ended and go with your questions already defined. Do the research that you need to do to write those questions properly based on the goal you're trying to get, right? And if you do that, I feel like you get like really good information. And then also when it comes to population, I know I made a statement this one, I said, is it 10 people? Please don't use 10 people for your research. I use God to beg you. Don't use 10 people. As much as possible, think of, and this may be hard, but think of 60 people above. For you to get good primary research, 60, in fact, that's even a very low number, right? But don't think of 10 people. I would actually say 100, not even 60. That's a good start. But 10 people is just absurd. I've seen people do that. They talk to 10 people and they say that's the research. It's terrible. And now you also need like tools to actually do this research, like we've mentioned. I've mentioned, oh, I'm really getting tired. Sorry, guys. I've mentioned things like surveys. From surveys, you have tools that you can use. You can use Google Form. You can do Obasabi like me and use Seldo, and Seldo can mess you up. But there are other types you can use also, which I've written here for you. For usability testing, you can use, I think user testing is also a good platform that you could use. You can use Maze and all those ones that are written here. For interviews, we're using Google currently, so you can also use Google's. For analytics, when it comes to things like I said, latent needs, sometimes you may actually need to see how the customer is interacting with your platform. You can use things like this. They actually give like good insight when it comes to analytics. If you also have, for existing products, you could also use this platform called LaunchDarkly. Also very good when it comes to analytics. And it's just as good as Hotjar and Mixpanel, right? I think, but then it has other use cases when it comes to deployment. And so it's not just focused on analytics, but also very good you can use as well when it comes to that. Okay, you have done your interview. You have spoken to everybody. Okay. Hi, David.
Yeah, good afternoon. Sorry, I didn't get the last product
Hi.
you said. You said launch darkly or something.
Yeah, LaunchDarkly. I like it for analytics, but it's not just only analytics. It's actually more focused into things like feature management, but they have like really good analytics, which can help you when it comes to latent. So you can see how your customers are actually interacting with your platform, which features they interact with more and things like that. So it's not a very popular one because it's a bit expensive, but yeah, it's also something you could use if you already have it embedded into your system. And the good thing about that is it's not just about the feature. It can also tell you details about things like endpoints but I'm getting too technical. Yeah. So it can be useful for you when it comes to user research, but it's not just for that. Which is why I just barely mentioned it. But it's quite expensive, and it has other use cases apart from just that. I think that is like this use case is like the least used, but they do help a lot when it comes to things like A/B testing. Wonderful, like wonderful. Okay, I hope that helped. Emily.
Sorry, please, can you go back to the last slide? I didn't get the last thing that was written there.
Oh, sorry. So if it comes to, yeah, sure. So one of the reasons why I only wrote these guys down is because they're like the most popular, right? And I think they're focused in these areas. For example, LaunchDarkly is not focused in this area. It's very useful, but it's not focused in this area. So if you're going to use it, there are other use cases, which is why it's quite expensive. There are other use cases that it does and things like that. But if you wanted to focus on just this in the long run, these guys that are here are perfect for you as well. Okay. Great. So now you have, you've done the research. You have spoken to everybody. You have cajoled, because sometimes you have to actually cajole your customers to talk to you. You have cajoled, you have spent hours, your mouth has been moving, your team has had lunch and dinner 50 years on conversing with customers. Now you have the data and you need to transform it, right? You need to translate everything that you have gotten into workable action. The first thing you need to do, of course, is to synthesize your findings. Which is why also, when I was stressing your questions, it helps you when it comes to synthesizing your findings. Because it's not only you that's doing this research. You have at least 5 other people doing it, or 2, I don't know, depending on your resource, right? And you have to be, everybody's information has to make sense. You have to have a format for how the results or the findings have to be put down. If not, you will not find pattern. You'll just be seeing random things and trying to ask yourself, why is this thing like this? It almost looks as if the conversations were different from the questions you wrote down. Another thing I forgot to mention on that end is try as much as possible after writing your questions is to also synthesize. What was it? Synthesize? No, what am I saying? Synthesize, please. Is to also have like a training session with your team, right? Let them know how to talk to customers. So they will not get anything out. You waste money, you waste everything. You won't get anything. You won't see patterns. You will not see anything out of all the things you have done. So you need to have some kind of training session of some sort, I don't know, to actually teach your team how to do what they need to do so that you don't lose money unnecessarily. Once you're able to see like patterns, see where middle grounds, see a particular theme across all your findings, now you can build your persona. When you're building your persona, I believe everybody here knows what persona is, but for those, just for benefit of doubt, let me assume that we have 1 or 2 people who don't know what personas are. So personas are basically fictional representation of your users, of your customers. I try not to call customers users because I feel like users take away the emotional connection I have with the customer. For me, when I just say users, for me, it makes the person seem so distant. So I prefer using customer. Is a fictional representation of your customer based on everything you've discussed, right? You know who they are. You know their age, you know their information, you know all of that. So you are able to build your persona based on all the conversations you've had. Little bits of everybody builds up that persona, not just one person. Not just the first person you discussed with or the last person you discussed with, no. From everything you got when you had this identifying of patterns, little bit of all the people you spoke with should make up this individual, this persona that you are saying is your customer. And just to highlight so that people, in case you don't know, it's not that you just make a persona today and then you leave it and you say, oh, we have a persona is somewhere. Please no. It's a living entity, right? So you have to always update it as much as possible based on what you find, based on customer feedback that you get when your product is or your feature is being used and all of that. And why is it important? Just like I said, when I said I don't like using user as a word because it makes the person distant. Personas help in that way. It makes your team feel connected to the customer. It builds empathy within your team. They need to understand this person's pain points. This person is hungry. This is in child deck now. This person is hungry, very, very hungry. Can't eat. Right? They're hungry at work. They're writing documents 24/7 and they need food ASAP. You tell the person that anybody will understand what hunger means. Right? Don't just come and tell an engineer that, oh, customers can't log in. Okay. Okay, they can't log in. Sorry to them. We'll fix it in 2 days' time. So people are dying of hunger, please. Our customers are not able to order food. They are dying in hunger. When you make things a bit, I know it's dramatic. When you make things a bit dramatic, people tend to understand better, right? When you finish with your personas, you need to build your customer journey. It's another thing that is very underused. When it comes to customer journey, I also understand why it's underused. Is because it's not easy to build. Should be told, it's not easy at all. Building a customer journey, you have to have understood all the pain points. You have to write it out. You have to build. But I mean, that can be a training on its own. I'm not going to go too deep into it. And then afterwards, you have to define your problem statements. Now you have understood the customer. You understand their journey. Now you have to define the problem that you are trying to solve. All right. For personas, this is what a persona should hold. A good persona, this is what a good persona should hold. It can have more, actually, but a good persona should hold it. Guys, can you guys see the complete screen? I want to be sure. Okay. So a good persona, this is what it should hold, right? It should hold details about their demographics, their names, behavior, goals, motivations, and frustrations. If you can, instead of frustration, highlight all their emotions as much as possible, because that also helps you understand the emotional need of the customer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jessica. Hello, Jessica. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't. We can't see the full screen yet, right?
Aha. Because I was seeing something else. Okay, you can see it now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Because I was seeing something else on my side screen. I was wondering. That's why I asked initially. Okay, so this is what it should look like, right? And like I said earlier, you have to build your customer journey, but I couldn't give details on that because, like I said, that's a different. Like, it can be a full topic on its own. It's not a small topic, right? And then, of course, you define your problem statement. Problem statement is not solution statement. I need to highlight that. Problem statement is, as it says, problem statement. So only thing I want to see is the problem with the customer, right? And why it is important to them. I am unable to order food. Why? Because I'm hungry and I'm unable to focus on my work. Please try not to add solution to it. I've seen problem statements where people add solutions and I'm like, this is not a problem statement. This is just you telling me solution to the problem that you're making me biased as it is, right? So have your problem statement be problem statement. Don't add extra things to it. When you have your problem statement, most times you have to now you can now start defining your solutions, right? What are you going to build? What are you going to go ahead with and things like that. When you do that, when you've highlighted everything, you know the problem, you highlighted the solutions, you now have to settle down and prioritize. That again is another topic I don't want us to go into because it will be too in-depth. And there are various frameworks when it comes to prioritization, but I'll just mention a few. There are things like RISE score, impact, and effort metrics. I am very biased to RISE score because it is very customer centric and business centric at the same time, right? So how many people are going to use this functionality? What is the effort it's going to take me to bring it to life? What's the confidence I have that if I take it into life, people are actually going to use it, right? And things like that. How many, what's the impact? Like, how many people will this feature impact? So to me, I'm very biased to RISE, but there are other prioritization mechanisms or frameworks that you could use. There's impact and effort metrics. I feel like that one is very feature driven. Unfortunately, I would say I'm a mixture of a technical and a business product manager, a group product manager. So I'm very focused on the technicality and how much it will bring me. So frameworks like that don't really work well for me, but frameworks like RISE work well for me, which is why I'm very biased to it. But it may not work well for you, but there are other examples. So when you have all this prioritization done, you can now say that, yes, I have completed my user research and I can go into planning, the building process, user stories, and all of that, many, yada, yada, yada. Any questions here before we go into our case study? We'll just do like a brief case study. You can ask questions back and forth on this particular case study, and we move forward from there. Okay, I will take that as no more questions. Okay. Hi. Chizuba. I hope I pronounced it well.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
My name is Chizoba. Yeah,
okay.
it's Chizoba. So I left a message earlier. It's not a question, but please, can you display slide 7? I did not get that. My network was fluctuating at the time.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, I'm guessing you're saying 8, because 7 is an exercise that we skipped.
Okay. Okay, the one with the QR code, right?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's fine then.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So I want everyone to looked in. Please, it's not a real product. I just want to highlight that. It's not a real product. It is fictional. Yes. So please, when we're talking about, don't ask me how much we are making, because it's not a new product. It's not a real one. Yes. Hi, Chizuba.
Okay. Hi, Jessica. So I want to ask, I currently work as a product manager in healthcare and fintech sector. So
Okay.
I'm trying to transition. I'm trying to transition into technical PM, but most resources I see online, they are not technical related. They are majorly just pure PM. So I don't know if there are like platforms. So I've been able to reach out to some schools, some PM schools, but when I checked their curriculum, it's still diverting back to pure PM, but just that they speak little of technical aspects, which is they just hold your KPI, your API, this, blah, 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 but not the in-depth one. When I did my research, to be a successful TPM, you should probably, not probably, you should have software engineering background. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I cannot code, but I can do a little bit of debugging from what I've seen engineers do and little practice, but that is not enough to be a successful TPM. So if there are tips if there are tips or things you think I can do, because that's my career progression, that's where I want to dwell more on. That's the technical, the business aspects, like you've been saying, the money aspects. Because if business is not maximizing profit, why are they in business when it's not a charitable business? So I'm looking at the technical aspects, because when I did some research and all that, the way everything is going, I think technical PM has more value to give than the rest. So technical PM, AI, yes. So if you're just an ordinary PM, ordinary PM, no much value, because even now, some engineers, some departments are even doing little bit of things that PM do. But when you now come from the technical aspects, not everybody can do that. And you will not be easily replaceable if you know what you're doing, if you know your onions really well and you're delivering value. Yeah. So I would like if you can just like walk me through a little bit, or maybe if I need to send you a personal DM so I don't deviate from what you're currently doing right now and probably prolong the call. Yes, I would like to connect with you.
I was going to tell you that I would try, if there's still time after this, I can answer this question. But let me just run through this quickly because I can see that we have less than 20 minutes. I just want us to run through this together and then I can come back to that question. Okay. But just to highlight here that I have some pretty nice views about what you said, but yeah, we'll continue that eventually. Okay, so Looked In is the product we're going to be using for our case study today. It is supposed to be a social networking and micro investing platform. What that means is it's not just social media. It's a place that everybody discusses about investments. So it's a social media or social networking platform, just the way you have LinkedIn, but it's for jobs and professional endeavors. This will be focused purely on investments, and it will also enable people like do some investing. Okay. Now we have the vision of the platform, which includes like they want to create this platform, like I said, which is social and financial platform. They also want the platform to be able to empower individuals to learn and invest and grow financially without the pressure or the stress of the of the traditional financial app. Okay. These are their business goals. They want to acquire a certain number of people in 6 months, very ambitious. They want to increase their daily engagement, and they also want to build their loyalty base by 30% every week. Every 4 weeks, they should have like a retention of 30%. Okay. Now, let's start with the business goals. Now, if you look at these business goals, okay, sorry, before we start looking at that, let's look at our challenge first. We as a team, we were hired to be the product research team. So all of us on this call, we are hired for Looked In to be the product research team, right? And what we need to do is define what is most important to the customer. And we need to understand what motivates them to use this platform every day, because as you can see, one of their goals is to increase daily engagement. Okay. Now we're looking at the goals here, and some of the goals excellent, some of the goals not so excellent. For example, this increased daily engagement is a nice goal, but there's no metrics to it. There's no measurement. Nothing I can say, oh, when would you ever, is one person's engagement every day enough for you people? Do you get? So on that light, you need to make sure that your goals are well defined, Like anybody comes to you and you want to do research for them and they don't give you better goals, please. Sorry, the Nigerian in me came out just now. And they don't give you good goals. Please highlight it from the very beginning that this goal is not making a lot of sense. Now, if we are to take on this challenge, I want somebody to suggest what would be the very first thing we would do. Based on everything we've discussed so far, what would be the very first thing we do? I don't know if we'll have to do this, take on this challenge. Based on what we're supposed to do, which is to define the customer need and the motivation of the users. Okay, you can write it out on the comment section. I forgot to say that, sorry. You can write it out in the comment section, and that is fine. Yes, we're going to conduct user research, but what's our starting point? That's what I want to know. What do we start with? With everything we have discussed, what is the very first thing we need to define? Oh, no. No. So the very first thing, we need to understand the customer needs, which is where we are focused on things like the functional needs, the emotional need, and all of that. Now, to get that, the very first thing, to get that information, which is what we need to do, right? Which is the most important thing of the customer, is we need to know how exactly we're going to do this. Even though we were hired, I want to do it secondary research. Are we going to do it with the primary research, right? That is our very first thing. We are doing this so that you can know the functional, emotional, and latent need, which is the customer's most important need. That's what they're asking you there, number one, right? And to do it, of course, is to define where you're going to get your information from, first and foremost, right? Now, we have agreed as a team that we're going to do this with both secondary and primary. Okay, and we are going to get quantitative and qualitative. So good, we have started off on a good spot and we're starting from there. So please always remember, your very first course of action is to understand the customer needs, which are functional, emotional, and latent needs. Okay, yeah, that is what you want to, that's what you want to define here. Yeah, David.
Okay, sorry to break your transmission. When you say this customer needs, is not related to you understanding the persona, because when you have a user persona, it now drives you to know the customers you're going to be looking at, right? That you now understand their needs. So I don't know, does it make sense that way, or maybe I'm saying the wrong thing? I don't think I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm Jessica, if you're speaking. Or is it from my side?
No, we can hear you clearly, David. So I think it's Jessica. I'm not sure. She's probably muted.
No, sorry about that. My internet just
okay, froze.
It just died.
Probably.
it just went off. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Okay, hi David. Sorry, I didn't hear your question at all. So please start again.
Okay. So what you said, you're talking about customer needs being the top, like the first thing, right? And I said we understanding having a persona, like user persona. When the user persona draw down to we knowing the customer, then the customer will now from there will know their needs. Because when I type user, sorry, go on.
Yeah, but how do you know your customer enough to build your persona if you haven't spoken to them at all? Like how do you know them? You don't know their functional needs, you don't know their emotional needs. So how do you build your persona without knowing that information? right?
Okay.
So your persona is going to be one of your outcomes from doing your user research. It's not your very first. It's going to be one of your outcome. If I look at it from the customer point of view, right? For you being the customer here, right? Or for the business that is our customer, right? The outcome here, one of them will be your persona. But for you to get that persona, you have to know who the customer is. You have to know their functional needs. You have to know their emotional needs. You need to know all those things for you to actually build the proper, what they call it, the proper, what's the word I'm looking for? Persona. Yeah. If you don't know them, then you're just going to be building a persona based on what you think the customer is. So you have to start first by talking to your customer, and to talk to them or to do your research at all is to define how you want to do it. Do you want to do it primarily? If you're doing it by yourself, then talk to your customers. If you're not going to do it yourself, then do the research. When you do the research and you get the data and you've confirmed the data, then you build your persona. I hope I answered you.
Yeah, you did, but sorry to I need you to shed more light on something. Let's just say, for example, right? You're building like a fintech app, right? And you say you must you must know your customer, know their needs, right? Do you just start meeting with random people? Do you meet with random people and say, okay, these are our customers? How do you now know which set of people you're going to be reaching out to understand their needs, which you now go on ahead and define as personas? I don't know if you understand where my question is coming from.
Yeah, I get.
Okay.
Yeah, I get your point. So at the beginning of this class, there were a couple of things I mentioned. I said, when you have an idea, most times you have a possible user for that idea, right? So if you're building a fintech app for money transfer and you're focused on business transactions, like business to business transactions, not everyday person, like you're focused on wholesalers transferring money or retailers transferring money to wholesalers or wholesalers transferring money into distributors, right? That is your use case. The people you should be talking to are people that handle those kind of transactions, right? You should be talking to wholesalers. You should be talking to what they call it, distributors. Now, if you're building like something like a day-to-day use of transfer, right? Then you should be talking to every person that does transfer, your friends that do transfer, your boss's friends that do transfer, the people in your office that do transfer, right? Anybody that you know that does transfer falls into that category. But this is where planning out your research, like I said, plan out your research, determine your population comes into play. You have to define who and who you're going to interact with. And sometimes to define some of these things is where secondary research comes into play. I don't know if you're here when I was trying to do a use case where I said, you know what, let's just use this. Now we're talking about a social networking platform that can use micro investment, right? Now I can go online and look for articles around micro investments, right? And articles on, let's say articles on social media, I don't know, but mostly about micro investments. That's what I would do. Not even on social media, mostly around micro investments. And I see the number of people that invested last year in the stock market. I see the number of people, the age group of people that invested in the stock market last year, let's say the ages between 25 to 40. That already gives me an idea of the kind of people that could use this app, right? Now I can go and check how many people, what kind of people use social media, search on it again, research on it again, and I see, oh, I have 30 people I have people between the ages of 16 to 50 steadily using social media. And I also have the age group of people who invested last year, last 2 years, last 3 years, right? Now, what do? I go out of my way to look for people who fall into this category. because these are most likely the people that I want to interact with, because they will probably have information about investment. So the very first question you should be asking is asking a person that is around that age group, right? Be it male or female. Sometimes you can get that information on articles as well, who knows? Be it male or female, you ask them questions like, when was the last time you did investment? How interested are you in investing? Do you invest in crypto or do you invest in stock? You know, you start considering that, and you can know, oh, this person is probably the person I should discuss with. And from discussing with them, you can ask them, how often do you use things like social media, LinkedIn, right? That is you already having an idea of who your customer is, having an idea of how you're going to discuss with them. At that point, once again, you probably are not actually having an interview. You're just trying to fill out the customer. Okay, fill out the customer to understand if the person falls into the category we are looking for or not. So I would actually say, as much as possible, and I think I mentioned it earlier, as much as possible, try to do secondary and primary. Even in the example I used, or the case number I used earlier, I used both primary and secondary, right? Because sometimes you also need to confirm that the secondary is fine and it has enough information to give you. So to define your customers is research. You have to sit down and go through articles, go through reports, understand them, get the information out of it that can give you an idea of who your customer is, and then start talking. When you start talking, you get to refine your customer even more. You understand that, okay, fine, even though the ages of 16 to 50 use social media, out of the ages of 25 to 30 that invested or that are known to invest in stock market, only 5% of them actually use social media. Fine. You have that information. You talk to people that you know use social media and see how many of them actually you invest, because I mean, not a lot of people do investments. Based on this example, right? You do that, and that also helps you define your population for your research. So already you know your population to an extent. You've defined your population based on what you just discussed. You've defined your population. You've also defined your source for your research, which includes primary and secondary. And in a very, very simple way, you have also defined your data, which is qualitative and quantitative, right? I hope I haven't confused you more, David. I'm really hoping I didn't. But I think this is the best I can do when it comes to this particular question. But if you have more questions, please drop it and I will try and get to you. I want to be fast so I can answer other people. Okay. Who is the second? I can see so many hands. Let me open the queue so I know who to go with first. I'm bad with names, so God have mercy. Please don't kill me. Chidize, I think.
Dozier. Yeah,
Oh,
Dozier.
thank you, Dozier.
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, hi everyone. So just a quick one. So for David, just maybe to add a little light, maybe just for simplicity, to what you said about, you know, having to know your customers' needs and where the persona comes in. So David, just an example, yes, you definitely would want to know your customer needs, that's for sure. And then there's the part of the personas, you know, being an outcome of having to know those needs, you know. And like we said, that I mean, we have different categories, you know, of people, and you know what the expectation would be, so to speak, when you're building a product or whatever it is you're working on. So let's just take LinkedIn for an example. I just want to keep it simple. So for LinkedIn, you have different users on there, and you know, so to different use case, yeah, pretty much. So here's what it is. So for an individual, you have an individual on LinkedIn who is searching for a job. So we're building LinkedIn, and you know what the purpose is, you know, like, you know, professional career goals, and, you know, people searching for jobs, people are looking for best fits for their companies and, you know, organizations, and, you know, all of that fun stuff. So we have different users, and, you know, we have different customer needs pretty much. So on LinkedIn, you have someone who is looking to hire. You have recruiters who are looking out, you know, for best fit for companies, to match companies. You have individuals who are looking to get hired as well. You get on LinkedIn, and they're out there searching for these roles that would come up, as being posted, that they see to be a good fit for, and then you have marketers, you have people who train individuals, like, okay, on for certification purposes and all of that fun stuff. So like, it all boils down to different people have different needs for same product. So you can have a product you're putting out there, but it's not just, we're probably not just looking at, okay, just one person getting to use this. We're looking at maybe 4 categories. We're looking like, okay, 4 different set of people who want to use that product, but they are using that product for different things. Like, okay, I have a unique need. This person A has a unique need, person B has a unique need, but they all will be using that product. So just I hope I've just been able to shed a little light as to the customer needs and the personas. So it's not necessarily about coming up with having the personas before the needs, because you have to know their needs before, because certain people would have different needs for same product, in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dozie. You gave me time to go and drink water. I'm grateful.
Well, David,
Amara.
and not to confuse you as well.
I hope so too. I think Amara had her hands up, but it seems like she has taken it down. Douglas.
Okay, greetings, guys. So, getting to understand who your customers are, I believe that's the first thing to be done after understanding the kind of products you want to build, like the what we have at hand now, a micro investing social platform, that is SocialFi. Now, we need to understand who are micro investors first, and who falls into the category of micro investors. It goes beyond age range and all that, because you can have someone that is, let's say, 25 to 30 and is an HNI, have access to certain funds that makes him or her qualify as an HNI. You can't say that person is a micro investor. But there are some other micro investors that can still fall within that age bracket. So that is the point where you come to identify, okay, these are the people that fall into the micro investment category. So what are their pain points? What are the things that will want to meet their needs, and the things that will make them excited? And that's where you can actually be able to identify who your true customers are. So that's when you can now get to do further research about them, to know their pain points and tweak the product to suit their kind of person, or the range they fall into.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, thank you guys so much for all the inputs here. This is really, really great. So like I said earlier, which Douglas rightly said, like defining your customer is not just about the age. I use those as examples, but not just about the age, which is why you also have to have the conversations, defining who they are. Filling out the customer is just filling out, but then you have to have that conversation to understand what they need. Just we had, does it also said what aspects is more important to them and what is not, right? All of this you get from understanding the customer itself, doing these interviews. After the interviews, you can synthesize the information you have gotten and put them into like functional, emotional, and latex needs. You can define all of that and define your personas. So in this use case, if we had all of that, we'll be providing this company not just personas. We're providing this company as a company that has, as a group that has done like the product research. What the outcome we're giving them would be the needs and the JPD, right? And we'll also be giving them the persona, and we'll also be giving them the persona, and we will also be giving them the customer journey and their problem statement. So you're giving them 5 things. When you give them this, they understand their customer from top to bottom. So to understand your customer, you have to have these things at your fingertips, every day looking at it, coming out. Also, like I said, all these things are customers, and your customers are alive and their needs change. So please, even when you do them at work, you don't just do them and then walk away and say, "Oh, I've done it. Customer research is done, and my customer needs," and you go about your day. And the way technology changes is the way people changes. Sorry, the way people change as well. So this will bring us to the end of today's session. I was over by 10 minutes. I tried not to, but yeah, it is what it is. If we have any more questions, I am available to answer. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have more questions that I couldn't answer here, but I don't want to take any more time. So people may have other things that they need to do. So thank you so much for joining in and for the back and forth, asking questions, for interacting. You guys were awesome, awesome, awesome. So thank you so much. Let me see. Am I the only one left on the call? Oh, it's here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jessica.
Hi.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now? All right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I believe every other person's, in terms of the case study, please let's ensure to document them. So we'll have them submitted for the certification that will be issued at the end of the program. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. The final lap of our bootcamp. Thank you very much for doing this with us. All right. Yeah. Cheers, everybody, and have a lovely day.